iRacing Season 2 is officially underway. Week number 1 at Sebring in the Ferrari 296 series. We're going to get going here. We're starting in 7th. Strength of field was a little bit over 2300 iRating, so some very, very fast guys, as you can see in the overlay here. Some 6,000, 3,000 guys ahead of us. And our hope for this race as we get going is just to try and keep up. It was always going to be a tough ask keeping up with some of these guys, and Sebring's not a track I particularly like. As we run a little bit wide here, understeer a little bit, that's going to compromise our exit. We're now going to see a couple of cars go up our inside as we shift over towards the middle of the track under braking, trying to block off any more lunges. We get tapped from behind from the car on the kind of left side of the track. That allows the car on the right to go around us. We lose another place. And right here I get a bit of a slide coming out of that corner onto the straight, so I'm immediately going defensive. I'm immediately keeping on the right side of the track, trying to not let an opening kind of entice somebody to go up to my inside. I brake late coming into the hairpin, a little later than that guy from behind. So we keep this position as we are trying to minimize the damage here. We've lost a few places off the start, not ideal. And we're trying to get into a rhythm right now, trying to calm ourselves down, trying to not lose any more positions, trying to see what happens in the race. A car goes wide here, compromises a few people here. The white car up ahead collides with somebody. He goes off the track. This car on the left was the one he collided with, so he's got damage. I'm thinking about sending it up the inside here, but thinking a little better of it. I was a little worried braking on the kind of concrete patch there in the corner that I would understeer into him and have another accident with him, so I didn't want to have any damage or compromise my race, so I backed out of it, thought a bit better. He's got damage, so I thought it might be a bit better to take it a little easy and see what happens. So as we come through here on the left, two cars in front kind of collide. I think one car kind of spun out and collected another car. As we come back down the back straight, we're right behind the car that has a little bit of damage. We're thinking into Sunset Bend that maybe this damage might hold him up a bit, maybe it might compromise his exit, but we're looking potentially at a net loss on this first lap, but nothing too crazy, and trying to get back into a rhythm and seeing where we can end up by the end of the race. So we come along onto the start-finish straight. We see a couple of cars up in front. We start shimmying over to the right, preparing for the first corner, and then something strange happened. When I was in the middle of the race, something happened here. Just car went completely from underneath me. I didn't know what happened. I thought I got hit from behind initially. I was concentrating on that left-hander. I tried to get the car going here, but I get the notification that I've meatballed, so that's race over. As you can see here on the kind of replay from the external cam, I actually hit the wall, and that completely destroyed the rear end, thus destroying my race. A mistake on my part, and I've never done that in practice or anything leading up to this race, so I was a little bit disappointed in that. We cut to the last lap of the race. I did repair the car and just trying to minimize the damage on my iRating, and rather than abandoning the race, we see if we could possibly gain a few positions. We're down in 15th right now, but the car ahead of us, David was a little bit slower than us. He was about a second and a half to 2 seconds depending on the lap slower than us, and right now in the last lap he's 2.5 seconds ahead, so we're hoping to put him under a little bit of pressure and see what happens. But yeah, a bit of a weird one. Coming into this week, I don't know what happened with the update on iRacing, but the Season 1 to Season 2 kind of patch kind of messed with the VR. iRacing with an Oculus Quest 3, so in practice sessions, even official practice sessions, I'd be hitting 90 FPS solid, just like I was in Season 1. Everything was fine, but for some reason when I went into the race, it just tanked. My FPS went to 45. And I only learned that when I went into this race, so there was no time to actually fix that before the race. So, I'm going to get the racing driver excuse out and blame the FPS for that crash, but it was probably just me not concentrating for a moment, trying to concentrate more on getting the apex right on turn 1. But we're gaining on David. We're down to about 1.25 seconds coming into this right-hander. We're hoping he gets a bad run out through these corners onto the back straight. It's probably a bit too far here. We may need him to have a mistake to actually get by him. But look, coming down the back straight here, it's really not going to happen. Unless he makes an absolute massive mistake in Sunset. Either locks it up on the braking, spins out, or spins out under acceleration. We're going to finish P15. And as we come into Sunset Bend here, he keeps it pretty together. We do catch up to him a bit, but he keeps it together. Goes late apex, whereas I kind of went early apex. And we crossed the line, finished P15, loss of 40 iRating, and a little bit of a disappointing race. One mistake completely ruined my race. So race number 2, 2200 strength of field. Qualified 6th. I was okay with that qualifying. There's a couple of guys ahead of us that are over 4,000, over 5,000. We're going to come on to the start-finish straight here, and you're going to see in a second a couple of guys go and then kind of check up their brakes, and then I kind of checked up my brakes, and then the guys behind us kind of didn't really react too well. They spin out, and it was all a bit of a mess. I didn't hit anyone, but it was just a bit of a mess. We cut to the external view, see me late braking there. The kind of M&M's car brakes, the old McLaren livery kind of just goes around him, collects the black car, and a couple of cars just get taken out in the end. Come into the first corner, there's a car on our inside. I'm not feeling confident under the bumps on the first corner. We run a little wide, leave at least one car through. I'm not sure if that other blue car was ahead of us at the apex or if we just let him through. But going back into this left-hander coming down the kind of second straight of Sebring, and I'm thinking right now I've lost a couple of places in turn 1. It's not the ideal start. Kind of got messed up with that kind of brake checking at the start, and I don't know if that was just because somebody went a little early. But think about going up the inside here. He leaves us room, but I think better of it, and he kind of just gets better drive out here, and we're just going to see what happens. I'm thinking right now, okay, calm down. It's a long race. People can mess up. It's a tricky track. A lot of kind of bumpy areas. There's going to be opportunities. Just take your time. There's a couple of fast guys ahead of me, so I wasn't too concerned about not getting a really good result like a podium. I would have been happy with top 5. I mean, even top 6 I would have been happy with. But we passed one car there on the left who spun out. As I said, can be a tricky track. There's a lot of bumpy areas under braking, a lot of bumpy areas where you have to accelerate out of. So one of those things where let's see and what happens with the race and if it comes back to us, and just keeping calm. The red car behind us was quick, and you'll see him catching up slowly over the next lap or so. But coming down the back straight, we don't get the greatest exit there. I think we got a 1x for that one, so we go a little bit defensive, thinking that the red car is catching us, and he is marginally catching us, but he's not in my slipstream, so he's not really catching me too much as we come into sunset. And I just hold on to the place for now, and trying to concentrate on getting a good exit here to try catch up to the blue car in front. But yeah, with that accident from the race 1 fresh in my mind, I'm going to give this wall on the right just a little bit more space. I messed around with some of the kind of graphics settings for my VR headset as well as in-game to see if I can get the FPS up. And it did go up a little bit. It wasn't down in 45, it was more like 70 and 80, but I still need to work on it because I was getting 90 consistently before and now I'm not. And I don't know if it's because of the new lighting update or what, but yeah, something's not quite right or something weird's going on. And yeah, we kind of got compromised exit there. The red car is looking feisty. Car behind us, Dave, he was a very quick car. He's only 1.7k iRating, but he was quick. Might be just a track that he really likes. It's also not a track I really like. I never felt confident on this track. It was one of those tracks that I struggled with, and I want to get your guys' tips or comments on how do you deal with a track you struggle with or a track you just don't feel confident on. Do you just kind of skip it for a week? Do you practice it endlessly until you get confident? The red car got a good run there. We let the car run wide as we're going to be on the right side for this right-hander. Going defensive already. Give him a bit of room here. We wash out a little bit, but I know he was washing out too with understeer, and he runs wide. We get a better run out here, and he slots in behind. And you're going to see in a second I was worried about him coming into this, making a move, but he backs out and thinks better, and that was probably a smart move on his part. He was definitely faster than me, so I was going to come back to him, and he's going to have an opportunity later in the race. But yeah, I want to get your guys' opinion. What do you guys do when you struggle with a racetrack or a race or something, a car? Just give me your tips. I want to hear, I want to improve, I want to see how I can deal with it a bit better. And your tips are always taken on board, and I like to reach out on, let's say, the Reddit forums and watching track guides and various different things to get a better understanding of where I'm going wrong. Sim racing is still new to me, so getting better is going to be exponential to an extent, but it's also going to be one of those things where the more information I can absorb and the more information I can get, the better. And your guys' opinions on where I can improve will always be taken on board, and I want to hear from you. The red car is on our inside here in this left-hander, but I leave him a little bit of room, but kind of not necessarily shut the door, but just squeeze the door a little bit to say, yeah, you can possibly come in, but it's going to be risky. I was worried about him passing into this hairpin. I know this is about the only part of the track I felt confident under braking, probably because it was mostly asphalt until you get to the last, let's say, 100 meters, and then it becomes concrete. But yeah, just a tricky track for me. I did not feel confident. As you can see, my last lap was a 2:04. I was doing low 2:03s, and my faster lap times in races was mid 2:05s. Just, I fell off the pace in this one. I didn't feel confident. I'm kind of putting it down to the change in surfaces. As you can see here, coming into this corner, I always felt the car either, if I braked hard coming into it to get potentially a better exit, it always felt the car was going to snap oversteer. And if it didn't brake hard enough, I always felt like it was going to understeer. So it was one of those weird things that it was hard to get the balance right. And then there were certain corners like turn 2 and things like that where I never felt confident on my accelerator. I do have haptics on my pedals, and maybe I needed to tweak them for this track. I didn't run into this issue on any other track before, but I felt like every time I put down the accelerator, even just marginally, it was vibrating, and it was just kind of not what I expected. From doing season 1 and racing on 8 different tracks, I had kind of this mental picture or kind of idea of what the haptic would do and when I would be on the limit. So putting my foot down and going over bumps and then feeling the haptics kick in was messing with me completely. And the frame rate issue that I had earlier, I tried to work on that a little bit, and I did bump up my frame rate a little bit from the kind of 45s I was getting. The red car is really feisty coming in here now, and I'm kind of just not exactly sure where he is on my bumper. I leave the door open, being safe here. I didn't want to have an accident by cutting him off or squeezing him too tight. He does get past. Dave was much faster than I was on this race, so we lose a position there, but we're going to see if we can hang on to the back of him and catch up to the guys in front who were just ever so slightly faster. They do have a back marker kind of playing around with them. Bradley, I don't know what happened to him in the race, but he kind of got caught up in that group ahead of us. And yeah, just one of those things where the track didn't come to me. I never felt confident. I raced 2 races this week. I did plenty of practice, and part of the reason I only did 2 races this week is I just was practicing. Any free time I got this week, I was practicing just to try and get more consistent, get my lap times down, and it just never came to me. So yeah, one of those tricky things. Still enjoyed this race. There's moments in this race that I really enjoyed. Later on, you'll see there's a really good battle as we kind of try to hang on to the back of Dave. This is what I mean by in this corner I always felt like I understeered. And I was understeering despite braking earlier, braking late, modifying my braking, modifying my turning in point. Just wasn't working for me. And yeah, I never came into that issue with the haptics. So we'll see what happens on the next race if I have that issue again, and maybe I need to tweak, maybe something changed, but I didn't notice anything. And yeah, I'm gonna have to tweak around my graphics setting to try and get my VR headset back up to 90 again and see if I can keep that consistent. But anyway, that last time we did was a 2:03.7. I'm hoping this one's going to be faster as we come into sunset. Take kind of a middle line here. We're definitely faster than Dave. Think about sending it up the inside, but he kind of closes the door and I have to kind of brake a little harder than I would have wanted. That was going to be a very risky move. I just was hoping that he would kind of flinch and open the door, so to speak, but he didn't. He was well in his right to kind of shut that one down, and I avoided any kind of accident there. So a little bit of oversteer into turn 1, keep it together, but that's going to slow us down by about a tenth, maybe 2 tenths. And we come into turn 2, late apex here as late as we possibly can. We've got Felipe behind us who is feeling feisty. He runs a little bit wide under braking. He's probably faster through that corner than I was, and he wasn't expecting it. But yeah, just an interesting race this week. And the next week I think is Portland, a track I've never raced on, so that's also going to be an interesting one because I've never raced there. We outbrake ourselves slightly here. We tried to get a good run out of here after outbraking ourselves. That was a corner I felt confident under the brakes, but just pushed it a little bit too hard there. And we're kind of caught between a Dave and a Felipe sandwich here, just trying to keep attacking Dave, but Dave was definitely faster. I know Felipe was behind was a little faster than I was. He had moments where he dropped back and then moments he caught up really quickly. Bradley ahead, the kind of back marker, he was holding on to us, and this group between Wayne, Dave, myself and Felipe, and he was kind of in the mix as well. It was a shame whatever happened to him in his race that he kind of got compromised and put back in 15th. He could have been like what happened to me. I could have been much faster in race 1, but I made a stupid mistake, crashed into the wall, and that ruined my race. Unfortunately, I didn't get out as quickly as Bradley did, and I probably came out in cleaner air than he did, but so I had no real frame of reference. Coming down into sunset now, finishing lap number 5. Last lap was a 2:04 for lap 4, so we're hoping to go a little faster here. Fastest lap overall is a 2:03.7, which is just not good enough, and I'm putting that down again to just confidence on this track. When you're confident, you tend to be really, really fast. As Felipe almost hits the wall behind us. But yeah, if you're confident, you seem to just always be faster, and that's one thing I try to do regardless of whether it's I'm feeling confident on our track, because we just set our fastest lap of 2:03.5. Even if I don't feel confident, I try to think I'm confident, but that doesn't always work. It's very easy to just not feel confident, and it's very hard to get yourself feeling confident. We see up ahead, Dave gets let by Bradley here. He got much better run out. Bradley just kind of didn't want to ruin his race. He knew he was behind him, so he opened the door and left him through. We're coming into this hairpin now. We brake as late as we dare, and we catch up a bit better onto the back of this group ahead, seeing if we can gain onto Wayne, Dave and myself. Now that Wayne has a person behind him that's fighting for position and not Bradley, the back marker, will that compromise the way he drives? Will he be more defensive? Will he be looking in his mirrors more? We'll see. Time will tell. But we're hoping Dave can put him under pressure and force him into a mistake, slow him down, maybe slow out the whole group down. We're starting to catch up to Bradley, though. I don't know if this was kind of a moment in the race where it was red mist kind of kicked in, or if I felt a bit more confident and I just was like kind of thinking, let's go, we can catch these guys, let's see what happens. Because there was a moment for those first few laps where it just was not catching anyone, and it was kind of just the gap was maintaining, and it's very hard to get that extra bit of pace when you're just seeing the gap always maintaining. But the second you see the gap go down, Bradley pulls over to the right here, leads me through. Wonderful, wonderful move. I love when people who are not on the lead lap do this. You know, by all means keep up if you can, but please don't compromise other people's races. But one thing I would have liked him to do, if he could have given me a bit more slipstream down that back straight. He pulled over quite early, and I kind of hoped he pulled over a little later. But yeah, good on him for moving over. He moved over for Felipe behind as well, so Felipe is coming up behind us as well. So we're coming into the first corner after completing lap 7. Another fastest lap for me, 2:03.1. Starting to bring in that lap time. We were 2:04 to mid to 2:03s to kind of a low 2:03s now. We're seeing if we can gain that time back down to 2:02s. We're catching up to both Dave and Wayne behind. I think Dave was kind of looking in his mirrors at this part of the race, feeling feisty. I know I have Felipe behind me. I wasn't trying not to look in my mirrors and just concentrate on the drive in front, putting my car in a position not too defensive, but just wouldn't open the door too much and invite Felipe behind. Dave goes down the inside of Wayne. I kind of outbrake myself there, but make it stick, almost run into the back of Wayne, and that was a bit of a oh my god, kind of, what am I doing here? Am I going to have an accident moment? Luckily we didn't, and we're still in this race. Wayne goes a little defensive, comes back onto the racing line. I was nowhere near him, so that's perfectly fine. And we're in a group here, we're in a fight now, and I'm thinking, yes, feisty, kind of, let's get racing here, let's see what happens. Dave gets a bad run out of that corner, lets Wayne back through. He kind of shuts the door a little bit. I'm braked a little early, trying to avoid that accident, left the door open for Felipe because he lunged up the inside, and it was one of those moves that was a little bit late, and I had to open the door to avoid an accident. But you know, that's racing, sometimes that happens, you get caught napping. Wayne has a bad run through this section of corners, leaves Dave up the inside. Wayne runs wide, and Felipe senses an opportunity to get past, and he does. I sense an opportunity here. I'm behind Felipe, getting the slipstream, I get past Dave. I pull over to try to get the slipstream from Dave and see if we can get a run around the outside and sunset from around Felipe. But Felipe runs us out a little bit wide on the line, pushes me wide. I understeer a little bit. Wayne goes up my inside again, allowing him through back onto the start-finish straight. But I get a much better run here, and I'm going to be down the inside of Wayne into turn 1. I shimmy him over to the right a little bit to try and open up turn 1 for my line. I understeer a little bit here. I'm really turning the wheel, trying not to run wide and collide, because I don't know exactly where Wayne is, but he does run wide and he gets off track. And we come into the turn 2, and Wayne outbrakes himself. He hits me ever so slightly, he sends my car around. Both him and Bradley go through. I lose 1 place from that, and we're going to cut to the external view here, and you're going to see a bit more of what happened. You can see I'm shimmying him over to the wall here, but giving him plenty of space. I turn in, giving him plenty of space. Probably way too much space. He runs really wide. I'm really far left, but I get a good run here, and I kind of keep it in the middle into the second corner. He runs into the back of me, spins me around. I keep it together, keep it out of the wall, but I was a little bit annoyed by this. This is the last lap of the race, and he runs into the back of me. I'm hoping he gives the place back. I wonder, what do you guys think? If you did that, would you give the place back? I'd like to think I would. Heat of the moment, you never truly know. And circumstances, maybe Wayne wasn't looking at his relative and thinking Bradley was for position and just wouldn't want to give up a place to give a place back. I don't know. I can't be in his head and speak for him, but yeah, I was a little bit disappointed by that. We're in the mix of a 4-way battle on the last lap, and I was getting really excited by that. I was thinking, yes, this could be a really good finish. It could be a really fun, see what happens. Even if I finished last out of the 4, it would have been fun. Only for it to kind of end on the second corner because somebody outbraked themselves slightly, and it was just a little bit disappointing. I was annoyed, I'll admit, I was really annoyed when that happened. It's just one of the things. I'm going to put it down to a racing incident now, but in the moment, in the heat of everything, I was just really annoyed by it. It kind of pissed me off. But I'm hoping here that Wayne makes a mistake or something happens so I can gain the position back. I'm also thinking maybe he just pulls up on this straight knowing that there's 1 corner to go. He's just going to let me by. Be the kind of sportsmanship. But as we come down the straight, he's pulling off into the distance and it's not looking likely. And ultimately he doesn't. So as we come into sunset, we're going to finish 9th in this race. Not a great result. We dropped 3 positions from the start. That 1 spin didn't help, but yeah, it's not a great race, not a great week for me at Sebring, and I'm glad to see the back of it. So we gained a little bit of iRating here. 22:11 is where we are right now, but my fastest lap was nowhere near the pace. So on to the next race next week in Portland. So see you guys then, and hope you stick around to see what happens.